And welcome to our Gold community members. Those of you who sat around the table with us in The Hague a year ago today to kick this group dedicated to tackling our shared information challenges, of you who've joined us over the last year. Next slide. Thinking back to last year, when we gathered in FMO's offices, many of them were motivated by a very basic challenge and a very basic realization. The sector matures, as MFIs reach new market segments, as new business models and delivery channels enter the market, and as competition increases in pockets of various markets, our information needs only increase. With additional complexity, we inevitably seek more information from our MFI partners in order to better understand the risks in their businesses and better support them. And yet us sits alone with these new requests. And as a result, our efforts to understand this greater complexity end up causing even greater challenges for MFIs trying to fill all these new information requests. And they undermine our ability to get the information that we need in a timely manner. And that is where the realization enters the picture. Individually, we created the mountain of information requests that you see on the left-hand side of this bar chart, those 750 data points that represent all of the asks that we have of MFIs. Then we come together to develop a solution that meets our collective requirements, but in a shared manner. The challenge then shifts from using MFIs with greater information requirements to build a common reporting platform for the sector that meets those basic needs and provides extra value from shared infrastructure, like better quality, timely data, and new insights from broader market benchmarks. To what we talked about last year. In tackling that challenge, we first off looked to the efforts of peers in the industry, the Social Investor Roundtable, but also experience of broader platforms like the European Payments Council. These experiences informed the principles for our work together and provided us a framework for success. In particular, as I'd like to remind us, we agreed to three things. First off, we need to set manageable goals, even small in scope at first, and progress towards our work. So with a core motivated group, like those of you who came around the table last year, but quickly involve other stakeholders, like those of you who joined in the meantime. For pushback on ways of doing business that organizations need to give up and find solutions to overcome those business challenges. And as a community, we agreed to this framework, but also acknowledge that one particular factors in this reporting ecosystem, MFIs, would need extra support in overcoming these challenges. So how did this framework play out across the year? The burden and the sheer waste that it generates was the #1 target for this group, that concrete goal that we sought to address. Our first year activities, as we will see shortly, aim to tackle this burden through reporting standards and technology to streamline how MFIs report to their funders and partners. Many of you around this table, including investors, development finance institutions, donors, and networks, work together to develop and find new reporting standards and to work with MIX and a core set of MFIs to test and provide feedback on evolving technology platform, MIX Report Express, which we'll see in a second. We also increased over the last year, bringing in additional funders and shortly local microfinance associations like AMFA from Azerbaijan. We also worked with raters and other service providers to get feedback on the evolving platform and begun to identify ways to link their due diligence work to common reporting. And Gold community members already migrating to MIX Report Express over the last quarter and scale-up plan for the next quarter is invested in expanding its support to MFIs that report. MIX is working with local microfinance associations to improve their capacity to support their members, whether through the MasterCard Foundation supported work with SEEP in Sub-Saharan Africa or directly with networks in Asia and Latin America. And with support from DFID, MIX is finalizing an online course module to help MFIs prepare to report according to industry and community standards and note their readiness of the systems to produce that reporting. As MIX Report Express is designed from the ground up with the reporting in mind, as we'll see later when it shows us the demonstration. The community agreed last year we're building an improved reporting ecosystem, and no single approach will suffice in helping us meet that goal. So we outlined some simple steps for ongoing collaboration with the listening community for the last year. Workshops like the one held last December are the cornerstone of this interaction. They allow us to work through issues face-to-face and develop consensus on the priorities for the community over the coming year. For example, last year's meeting established priorities for the standards work on the areas with the most information requests, financial statements, and credit products, and provided guidelines for key features of the technology platform. As we begin to tackle these priority areas, the smaller working group meetings and work streams are really the engines of development, of feedback, and refinement to the work plan that community has set out for itself over the year. Last year, several of you have come together to discuss proposed reporting standards, to provide feedback on the prototype of Mix Report Express, work with Mix to test new technology with your MFIs. In these areas, the processes that we've laid out together have worked well to support community interaction. In our meetings, we also sought ways to involve the broader community in development. All of you should have received logins to the Mix Gold community team site and alerts to updates on the various work streams documented there. How it may not be sufficient to keep you engaged in our work. So we're redoubling our efforts to keep those of you outside the working groups abreast on our progress and are actively soliciting your ideas for other ways to engage between meetings and outside of working groups. That we've implemented is to repurpose our monthly newsletter, Mix Feature, for our Gold community members to bring you up to date on our work every month. In our November Mix Feature, for example, you will have seen an article on how we have updated our Mix Gold platform to give visibility into the quality of data reported by your MFIs through Mix Gold. At the second year, we will look forward to your thoughts on other ways to keep the broader community informed of our collective progress. So fine, let's take a look at the progress made over the last year on the three pillars of the community's work on the reporting platform: standards, technology, and business processes. Let's start. MFIs is really the heart of the challenge that we face as a community. Out last year with the observation the sum of all of our reporting requirements across all the members of this community with a vast set of data, but of little value for comparing across institutions or creating meaningful market information. That's our perspective. For our MFI partners, these requirements represent a bewildering and sometimes conflicting set of data with no coordination, and worse, one that consumes an increasing share of resources at the MFI level. Together, these areas of reporting, we just start our first round of reporting standard review, those areas that would yield the greatest impact on the community and MFIs, financial statements, and the credit portfolio. In May of this year, we working groups of these two work streams. With me as the secretary to carry out the background research, summarize findings, and provide proposals for the working group to consider. Each working group brought their expertise across a range of actors to the proposals and to help refine the questions and trade-offs that we presented. For example, a framework for credit products that divided between enterprise and household lending meet analytical requirements for each of the community members and were flexible enough to adapt new product growth on the horizon. Reviewed by the groups, the standards were circulated in June to the broader community for feedback, and integrating the comments received, posted in July for adoption by the community. Already by September, UNCDF, MasterCard Foundation, and Mix had adopted those standards and started to integrate them into their reporting through the new technology platform, Mix Report Express, to capture the third quarter reporting requirements for 2013. Then, Mix has been working with the other community members to identify differences with current reporting requirements in order to support a smooth transition over new standards for all of them. As highlighted, value and efficiency as two important criteria for any standards development. In other words, if we're going to change what we ask of MFIs, we need to prove that we can get the same or better insight out of the new data points, able to represent a real savings for both MFIs and the community. Each standard, like the one you see on the right-hand side of the screen, we developed a value and efficiency statements to utilize what each standard brings to the community. These are winners on both fronts. At the level, all major ratios previously calculated are still available after adoption of these new standards. In addition, as reporting of these standards grows, they will give even greater insight across portfolios and at the market level where previously there was very little. Importantly, in understanding the types of credit products and economic sectors supported by MFIs. On the end, the gains are perhaps most visible in the before and after shots in the graph on the left-hand side of the page. Financial statement requirements have decreased by almost 50%. Portfolio information, which is part of the overall portfolio information, by near a third. Information is still right for standards, as the red circle on the left-hand side of the graph shows. From this year's standards work, we have begun already additional work on standardized how we ask about credit product security and delivery channels. And from our research into this community's and the broader sector's requirements, there's still work ahead in developing standards to deposit products, voluntary versus compulsory or deposit balances, as well as for other financial services with the growing presence, such as insurance, pay transfers. We review in December and January to review areas of information needs with the greatest priority for your portfolios. But before we do, we would like to ask each of you to take a minute right now to get a high-level sense of the reporting that you would have greatest value for your portfolio today. Take a look at the portfolio that just opened up on the right-hand side of the screen. Consider the following question. What two areas of information provide you the most value from your reporting for microfinance? And remember, we've already done significant progress in standards on the financial statements and credit products, delinquency, and economic sectors. So in addition to those areas already standardized, what areas would provide you the most work? Select two items now. Poll is closed, and we should be seeing the results in just a couple minutes. Back to those again at the end of the webinar, also in our follow-up discussions. I see them coming up. It's like there's a pretty high concentration around product delivery channels and outreach characteristics. These not surprisingly relate to what we'd already seen a little bit here from the concentration of interest around the portfolio area. So we look forward to working with you in coming months and then again in the roundtable in February, which we'll talk about in a minute to dive into these questions further. MIX has worked with the Gold community to advance standards in a practical way to impact value and efficiency across the MIX Gold community. Over the last year has proven that the community is actively engaged in the standards development and review. How clear after the first round of standards were completed that there is need for each organization to develop an internal roadmap for standards adoption. Roadmaps will likely differ between organizations, given the unique internal organizational setup, but the community may want to consider creating some peer groups to share experience and troubleshoot this process with similar organizations. Adding to the experience of the social investors, and particularly the European Payments Council work, creating processes and incentives to change internal processes can be one of the most challenges of an initiative like this one. We also think that as we've seen through the standards work and the technology work, that we find important lessons and learning from within the community to help each member address that challenge. And based on the experience and discussion with each member, MIX would like to propose that the process currently used, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen, be adapted to an annual cycle. What does this mean? This suggestion recognizes the fact that there may be really only one time in the year, the beginning of the new calendar year, during which new standards can be easily adopted and implemented by different organizations, and, equally important, easily communicated to reporting MFIs and other FSPs. The proposed 6 to 9 months to manage the adoption and transition cycle after standards are developed and adopted. We spend the last quarter of each year a new standards to work on, and then the first quarter, researching and developing those standards with the working groups, ourselves 6 to 9 months to implement them with each of you. Now, information requests that really feed our reporting. We will use the technology and processes that make this common reporting solution possible. My colleague, Ralitza Rizvanoli, who heads up our Common Reporting Initiative, will introduce us to MIX Report Express. Raleigh?
Welcome, everyone. So here, during our first roundtable, we identified several key priorities that technology solutions should address. Emphasize that the online reporting solution should, as much as possible, automate the data collection process, from with MFIs to data quality checks, and to restate and resubmit data. With priorities in the new reporting platform we have been building over the last year now, it has own name, MIX Report Express. Improved quality was also identified as a key priority for all MIX community members. Quality through automating previous manual processes. But long-term quality improvement depends on MFIs having a understanding of data requested from them. In a complex system, achieving a common understanding of disparate data requirements presented in different formats was next to impossible. This harmonization and a common reporting platform, where standards are implemented as soon as adopted, we begin to provide MFIs with this common understanding of requirements. In the long run, this effort will increase our capacity for informed decision-making through variable industry data beyond individual funders' portfolios. About the data security and privacy of the solution that is both a private and a public component. The platform allows for private data to reach its intended consumers, while MFIs to make their data transparent at no additional effort by reporting the mix. The technology solution devised to improve a burdensome process is user-friendly. To meet this goal, Mix has been engaging the MFIs, who will be the largest user group of the technology solution, in every stage of the major development we've been making. How the high-level process of the reporting system works. Agency of reporting obligations to funders, networks, and regulators with transparency and reliability of the mixed market. Business processes and staff to ensure quality and privacy. Collection centrally for the sector through Mixed Report Express, driven stakeholder requirements. This gives stakeholders influences harmonized reporting requirements and helps sustain public and private data flows for the sector. The mixed market would never be able to accomplish the kind of product available without a new reporting system. On the other hand, wouldn't be able to get the kind of data transparency and access to comparable benchmarks for performance monitoring and smart portfolio management. You, Gold community, support this new mixed infrastructure and contribute to sustainable development while also leveraging market innovation. The reporting platform itself on Mixed Report Express and see how it addresses the priorities the group outlined in our last December roundtable. We successfully concluded the alpha and beta stages of the platform development. Mix enables dynamic reporting for MFIs and other financial service providers to their stakeholders. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, various example stakeholders are listed. Finds the reporting requirements for data requested into a single reporting format, and only once on requests that repeat across multiple stakeholders. They can online and often in Excel. Access to the common definitions of data requirements through an inline data dictionary, as you see the pop-up definition there on the screen. The data validation functionality that signals to MFIs as they're completing the data, errors or potential problems with the data that they enter. Reports they have submitted in the past, make corrections or restate their information. Mixed with all reporting formats and definitions available in each French, Spanish, and Russian. But the language functionality is built in a flexible way to ensure that any other language can be incorporated as well. For example, we will be translating the platform in Azeri language as part of our partnership with the Azerbaijan Microfinance Association. So now approach to ensuring data quality, which is listed as a top priority for the Mixed Gold community in the December roundtable. Our record of being in the business of collecting data means that we have a wealth of information to base our validation processes on. With 15,000 data submissions during the past 10 years, Mix has necessary breadth and depth of experience to perform robust quality reviews. Review incoming data, checking for internal consistency, their annual data against audits or ratings, and do trends and benchmarks to identify any irregularities with the data. While it is very well trained on quality review, we also make use of automation to reduce human error. This harmonization will improve quality by presenting MFIs with common requirements. We'll see in greater detail how automation and harmonization contribute to greater data quality. Mixed data before submission is an initial step in the reporting workflow in Mixed Report Express. In fact, it's now possible before data providers validate the data and review the resulting errors. Submission functionality in a flexible way, knowing that data quality review is an iterative process, and the more data we collect, the more error patterns we will discover. We build up these validation rules in Mixed Report Express over time and get smarter about issues with reported data. A validation rule is added in the system, and data is checked against that rule. You see examples of some rules already applied in Mixed Report Express. This is define generic rules pertaining to calculation relationships or breakouts of main data points, or specific rules looking at predefined data irregularities. Through a common understanding of data requirements. The fundamental step in building that understanding is to have one common repository where requirements, definitions, and relationships to other data points are stored. As Report Express, Mix built a multi-dimensional online data dictionary which hosts the union of all data requirements that exist in Mix Report Express. In the screen that you see is a screenshot of the online dictionary tool with you to search for a data point. You get the detailed definition. You do it in multiple languages. You can your understanding of the data point by using some of the additional functionalities, such as the calculation formula. The Mix dictionary is dynamically linked to the rest of Mix Express and with the standards work, and you'll see in a minute how this works. Here's the features and technology are linked to Mix Report Express. We now have adopted standards. When a community member formally adopts the standard, they agree that they will ask data in the prescribed standard manner for any data point that falls in the standardized data area. As a pass, ensures that any content changes and updates are reflected in our data structure and the Mixed Data Dictionary. Both seamlessly linked with the infrastructure of Mixed Report Express. Let's take a real example. Several ago, MasterCard Foundation formally adopted standards related to economic sector breakouts of loan products of MFIs. Mixed agriculture loans in the dictionary as those standards were adopted. And now, in the MasterCard portfolio, who use Mixed Report Express to report their results to MasterCard, see the new definition for agricultural loans in the written format that renders in Mixed Report Express. A small example of how this extremely dynamic process ensures that standards harmonization is not just a theoretical exercise, but actually applied in the reporting infrastructure soon after standards are adopted. Ensuring confidentiality of data was also listed as a top priority in last roundtable. Data through Mixed Report Express and meant for private consumption is seen only by the target requesters. MFIs willingly want to make public by reporting to Mix is displayed on their public Mix market profile. Processes allow us to meet the dual goal of privacy and transparency while maintaining a single data supply chain, Mixed Report Express. Service which the MFI needs to agree to prior to submission spell out the distinction between data destined for public use versus provided for the purposes of third-party arrangements. So in other words, data that is provided to Mixed community members for consumption. Switch gears and look at some of the ways we've been engaging the intended users of the new technology solution, the MFIs themselves, as being building the solution. We are building a product that truly meets user needs. We engage in the different stages of development of the reporting platform, the MFIs. In May, we launched the first stage of alpha version of Mixed Report Express. About MFIs helps us test the dynamic reporting functionality. We launched the beta pilot. This using Mixed Report Express as the platform to collect data from over 25 from the portfolio of two of our gold clients, UNCF and MasterCard Foundation. For these belong to both plans' portfolios, the reduction of reporting burden was immediately felt. The iterative process of development, testing, and improvement with track of the user feedback. For example, in the graphic that you see, you helped us test Mixed-Report Express, evaluated specific functionalities on their ease of use, and gave concrete suggestions how to improve them. Based feedback, we're prioritizing enhancements in the validation, Excel, and dictionary features. We also had the opportunity at forums such as webinars and training sessions to provide further feedback. As you see the example from OIDM in Malawi, even took the initiative to suggest very concrete ways and show examples of how the look and feel of the reporting format could be easier for them and others to understand the data requirements. It is actually to see MFIs get excited and involved in the progress we're making with the common reporting solution. MFI has been and will continue to be instrumental as we make further headway in the development of Mixed-Report Express. Two stages of development, we would like to share with you some of the features we are currently working on. Let's get your feedback on future functionalities. In April, we will develop more tailored provisions for viewing and using Mixed-Report Express. It means that the login you use today to access the Mixed-Quote platform can also be used to access Mixed-Report Express. This is to view the individual submissions of MFIs in your portfolio and access the complete mixed data dictionary. We're in communication with MFIs. With their reporting obligations and timeline, they receive automatic alerts and reminders when their data is due. A quality will be enabled inside each MFI submission where discussion between the MIC analyst and the MFI on quality issues are captured and visible to anyone with access to view this MFI. Please, we're working to improve the current tracking functionalities by disclosing more information about the timeliness and completeness of data. There are many other features that we know users would like to see added over time to the reporting solution, whether it's the Mixed-Report Express or the Mixed-Quote platform. For some we're actively fundraising today, while for others we're still exploring the relative importance for our user base. We would like your opinion through this short poll question that you see about which features will be most important from your point of view for Mix to develop. Take a moment to select the top 2 features you see on all questions as important for Mix to build as part of the end-to-end reporting solution. And most preferences are for customized reports and outputs. So this helps us focus our efforts, but we will have a chance during our second annual roundtable to take an in-depth look at these functionalities and which ones come as top priorities. Here's and look at another key component, the business processes we need to follow to ensure that the common reporting solution works in practice for the MFIs we target. This is where the group needs to focus their attention prior to the second annual roundtable. Portion of the round 1 activities. The already adopted the standards have completed this step, while you are in the process of reviewing your internal processes and assessing the impact of the standards on current reporting formats. Before forwarding your portfolio of MFIs to Mixed-Report Express, we will work with your organization to finalize adoption of standards should you opt to go this route. This is preparing your new reporting format in Mixed-Report Express and then you assess any potential downstream impact on indicators. In the next month and a half, we will be reaching out to each of you individually to help you conclude this process. More as a group, we will begin narrowing down the priorities for the next stage of standards development. At the next roundtable, our goal will be to finalize these priority areas and begin working on developing the next set of standards. Last is to agree on a common reporting schedule. Slightly different schedule of deadlines for MFIs reporting. In addition to a common reporting platform, we also should aim to achieve uniformity in the MFI reporting schedule. Working on a first draft of this common reporting schedule. Regressive schedule will be taken as a baseline. This is that, for example, if one funder is requesting data 30 days after quarter end, while other is requesting data 45 days after quarter end, the common for MFIs will be 30 of the quarter end, so the lowest common denominator. This is to get us started on the discussion. This the group may in the end decide to opt for another baseline. Coming individual meetings, we will present you with the common reporting schedule, and we will aggregate around feedback to bring back to the roundtable. There are some individual setup steps Mix will perform with each of your organizations as we transition your portfolio MFI to the new reporting system. Remember is that we need at most a quarter to perform all the necessary data for your MFI and submit data through Mix Report Express. If you wish to transition your portfolio to Mix Report Express for March reporting, for example, of next year, to begin working on the steps in early January. It's to generate your reporting format in Mix Report Express. The way advice will see it when they log into report. Your form will be impacted by the adoption of standards, or you may wish to include additional data points for the new reporting year. The impact on the reporting format and the historical data is the most time-consuming part of the process. Once completed, we need to communicate to MFIs about the upcoming position and give adequate amount of time to schedule training sessions and support for the MFIs themselves, as well as any program team members from your organizations that should be involved in the trainings. Additional teams of analysts will be setting up and leading these training sessions, which will focus on reviewing the new reporting format as it's generated in Mix Report Express, also being ways to avoid validation errors, and how the overall workflow works inside of Mix Report Express. Individual follow-ups with each of your organizations, we'll review this timeline in a bit more detail. Now, the overall timeline for transition. Please take a moment to answer the question of when, quarter, or for when date you think your organization can transition to the process. Lots of these questions, and as we have our individual meetings with you, we will review which date makes most sense to target for transitioning your MFIs onto Mix Report Express. Now let's turn it over to Blaine, who will tell you a little bit more about the logistics of the second Mixed-Call Community Roundtable.
So much. So last half hour, 45 minutes, we've looked at the enormous progress this community started just a year ago has already made. And at each stage of this review, the work standards, technology, and processes over the last year is really the validation of a proof of concept. That a shared solution to information challenges could provide more benefit than pursuing our individual status quo efforts. Seen to the demonstrations with Raleigh, what we laid out is the foundation for a scalable framework, whether in adopting new standards and implementing them in Mix Report Express, and a robust validation framework like us. The year of the community will be about implementing and refining that proof of concept. And so today is the collective kickoff for that year. Next 2 months, Mix will work with each of you individually to push out priorities and standards, platform processes, to solution the most effective one for each of you. You have identified through today's polls, some of those important areas, and we look forward to pursuing them with you between February. Then, on February 10th, thanks to the generous support of one of our community members at UNCDF, we will have the opportunity to come together again, this time in New York, together on the priorities that you have all identified. And I underscore this point because annual roundtables are really the moment in the year where we, the team, can get together to go on and lay out that work plan and priorities for this Mixed-Call community. And so my colleagues and I are in touch with each of you to schedule those in-depth interviews in January, and to confirm your participation at the next round table. All I have for the content of the presentation today, but I'd like to turn it over to you, Dan, to see if we've gotten from
That's
the
great, Blaine.
participants on
Thanks.
call.
And thank you, Raleigh. Great presentation, guys. We have a couple questions that have come in. I would remind the audience, now's the time. If there are any questions following either Blaine's portion of the presentation or Raleigh's, please submit those. But a couple questions came in. One here is, if we have not adopted the standards yet, is it too late for this round? Maybe I'll add that to you.
So, as heard on the presentation, we have 3 organizations that have adopted the standards: UNCD, MasterCard, and MIX. So it's definitely not late, and you're still very much on time to adopt the standards. And we'll be working individually with each of you to the impact on your current reporting format, on any downstream impact, and basically to allow for a smooth transition over to your reporting formats once you adopted the standards. But definitely not too late.
Great, Raleigh. One more question here. Wanted to ask, can non-MIX Gold users join this community? Maybe I'll let you answer that one.
A lot of interest and excitement from the people around the table and a growing community as well. One thing that we all want to keep in mind is that we are building is really a shared solution to our common challenges, and being part of that solution is really the key to being effective as a community overall. So we're excited about the work that we've been able to achieve with the working groups on the standards, so those rounds of standards on financial statements and credit portfolios, as we talked about earlier, as well as the feedback and refinements that we've been able to make on technology and business processes. But we've been able to do that because all of around the table are also part of that solution. And so we look forward to working to identify additional members that we should be targeting to bring on board. And frankly, that's where some of the ideas for expanding the membership local networks that have come from. So we look forward to working with all of you to continue to expand this community so that we have the right people around the table as users of MIX Gold, also helping where that solution goes.
That's great. More question just came in. Could you tell us a little bit more about this roundtable on February 10th in New York City hosted by UNCD? Yeah.
You who have not been to MIX Gold Community Roundtable, so particularly our kickoff roundtable last year, we will be sure to send after this webinar also link to the write-up from that event. But the event as a whole is really a working session where MIX does research and in-depth interviews beforehand with each of you to identify those priorities along the area we talked about before: standards, technology, business processes that will help support our common challenge of reducing reporting burden and improve information infrastructure. So there will be a series of workshops during that event on February 10th. We'll be able to look at each of those issues based on the priorities that we've outlined with each of you over the 2 months. So as we'll talk about in just one second, we look forward to participation and having you part of that event.
And one final subpoint question, I think, to that last one is, do you reconfirm which subcommittees there are in the MIX Gold community?
The working groups are actually self-generated. So, for example, we started with the general framework of standards last year, and then as we identified the priorities, which were the financial statements and credit portfolio, we, as a team, as a group, self-identified to be part of those. So there were 2 working streams, in fact 3, on the standards last year, as well as a work stream on the technology, both from a testing perspective as well as with UNCDF and MasterCard Foundation, working with their to actually implement that. So opportunities for people to get involved on the standards or on actually working with the technology solution to improve that reporting.
One attendee just asked, repeat the challenges that will be addressed in the roundtable. So what were those key points? Again.
Apps Roundtable is really about scaling up what has been a proof of concept. So to remind everyone, everything that we talked about to date is laying the groundwork for this reporting that's going to address the challenges that we talked about. So we want to, as a whole, and Dan is coming back to some of the framework that we talked about before in terms of set measurable goals around reducing reporting burden involving a greater number of actors and groups increasing the technical capacity of MFIs. But this next roundtable is going to address the scaling up of that. So everything we've done over the last year has been about laying the foundation, taking that foundation. What we're going to be doing over the next year, and as a team, is working on those key challenges that are going to help us scale up what we've already built to really implement this on a much larger scale.
Great. Well, unless there are any further questions, I think that wraps today's webinar. Again, we really wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy days. I know some of you are dialing in here early in the morning, late at night, middle of the day. So we appreciate this. This is certainly a community effort, and we'd like to thank everybody who applied, who was able to participate both in the early process, but also some of the later half of this process. And the client success, the sales and marketing organization at Mix, I let everybody know that you can feel free to reach out to me about any questions to this meeting, the Gold community, and your participation as a Gold client with Mix. Finally, we'll be reaching out to everybody to confirm participation for the February 10th meeting in New York City. I'd like to wrap that up with one final poll question, of course. Will be able to attend this meeting? We'll give. Okay, great. Concludes today's webinar. I'd like to thank everybody for attending.